Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, all glories to Samud Vaishnavi devotees, and all glories to His Holiness Dayananda Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. All right, thank you so much for being here today. Is it possible to unmute, please? Good.
It's not muted when I come on, but anyway.
Yeah, you are on mute, so good. Yes, thank you for being here, Maharaj. And of course, devotees, Maharaj has been here with us a couple times, and we are very, very much thankful that we can have Maharaj's association again today. So Maharaj, as usual, I'm sure you might have seen the text. The text is 2736 today. Is it 36 or 37? It's 36, yes. So we may put the verse on the screen and then you may take control of the ship and sail us across the ocean of material miseries to the other end. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So. All right.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, text number 36. So we'll start with the Kalena Militadiyam Amarishanrinam Stokayu Samsva Nigamo Batadura Paraha Aviritastwan Anuyugam Sahisav Satyavatyam Veda Drumam Vitapasho Vibhajistyati. I'll do it a few times. Kalena militadiyam avamrishanrinam Slokayu samsvanigamo batadura paraha Aviritas panu yugam sahi satyavatyam Veda drumam vitapasho vibhajityati sma. One more time. Kalena militadiyam amarishanrinam Stokayusham Swanigamo Batadura Paraha Aviritastu Anuyugam Sahisat Yavatyam Veda Drumam Vitapasho Vibhajityati Sma. Okay, synonyms. Kalena, in course of time. Milita diyam, of the less intelligent persons. Just a minute. Avamrishya, considering the difficulties. Rinam, of humanity at large. Stoka Ayusan, of the short-living persons. Svanigamaha, the Vedic literatures compiled by him. Pata, exactly. Dura Paraha, greatly difficult. Abhirhitaha, having appearance. To, but. Anuyugam, in terms of the age. Saha, he, the Lord. He, certainly. Satyavatyam, in the womb of Satyavati. Vedasrumam, the desire tree of the Vedas. Vitapashaha, Vibhajitas will divide. Sma, as it were. Translation. The Lord himself in his incarnation of Satyavati Vyasadeva will consider his compilation of the Vedic literature to be very difficult for the less intelligent persons with short life, and thus he will divide the three of the Vedic knowledge into different branches according to the circumstances of the particular age. Purport. Herein Brahma mentions the future compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam for the short-lived persons of the age of Kali. As explained in the first canto, the less intelligent persons of the age of Kali would be not only short-lived, but also perplexed with so many problems of life due to the awkward situation of the godless human society. Advancement of material comforts of the body is activity in the mode of ignorance, according to the laws of material nature. Real advancement of knowledge means progress of knowledge in self-realization. But in the age of Kali, the less intelligent men mistakenly consider the short lifetime of 100 years, now factually reduced to about 40 or 60 years, to be all in all. They are less intelligent because they have no information of the eternality of life. They identify with the temporary material body existing for 40 years and consider it the only basic principle of life. Such persons are described as equal to the asses and bulls. But the Lord, as the compassionate Father of all living beings, imparts unto them the vast Vedic knowledge in short treatises like the Bhagavad Gita, and for the graduates, the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Puranas and the Mahabharata are also similarly made by Vyasadeva for the different types of men in the modes of material nature, but none of them are independent of the Vedic principles. Om Gantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Maritam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastacha Deshatarine. I'll just read the translation again. The Lord himself, in his incarnation as a son of Satyavati Vyasadeva, will consider his compilation of the Vedic literature to be very difficult for the less intelligent persons with short life, and thus he will divide the tree of Vedic knowledge into different branches according to the particular to the circumstances of the particular age. So thank you for inviting me to speak, engaging me in Krishna's service. So so this reminds me of a verse from the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is in the first chapter of the first canto, text 10. It says, Prayanalpa yusa sabya kaluvasmin yugega manda samanda mataya manda bhagya upadrutaha. And the shades that Naimisharanya are speaking to Sutta Goswami, and they say, oh, learned one, you know, in this age, Prayana Alpayusa. Prayana means always, or almost always. Alpayusa, you know, Alpa is duration of life, means it's very meager. And Ayur means duration of life. Alpa means small duration. So that's the situation that of the four ages, the age of Kali is the most degraded, and therefore it's very difficult to impregnate society with a proper understanding of the goal of life. In previous ages, people were more inclined, you know, Satya, Treta, Dwapara. Gradually, the memory and the ability to remember, you know, Vedic literature was very much reduced until eventually, at the start of Kali Yuga, people had lost the ability to, for the quality of Shrutidar. So Shrutidar means that they could hear and then remember. We can hear and remember some things, but, you know, usually it's, you know, we hear, and the next, within the next few minutes, even we forgot. You know, we ask somebody's name and then, you know, we forget the name before we. So it's like that it's impossible for us to actually hear and remember. So it's talking about the Lord's activity of making the Kali Yuga a fit place for hearing transcendental knowledge by compiling the Vedas. So the Vedas, you know, they're very difficult to read. They cover every aspect of the material creation and every aspect of how to actually become liberated from it. And it's said now that there's very few Vedas left compared to what was actually compiled originally by Vyasadeva. And even if we actually tried to read those, we would be, you know, struggling to do it in one lifetime. So therefore, Vyasadeva, seeing this, decided to divide them into four so that it would simplify it a little bit. And then he started to, you know, include other parts, other commentaries on different parts of the Vedas, ancillaries to the Vedas, they call them, like the Puranas and Itihasas and like that. You know, Puranas are more or less like Smriti, and then like Upanishads, like Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads are the Shruti. And so in the Vedas, they give us information starting with sense gratification, because everybody's in the material world for that reason. There's Karma Kanda, and then there's Jnana Kanda, and eventually Upasana Kanda. So Karma Kanda means we follow the Vedas strictly for sense gratification. And it's hoped that by the time we've, done that for some time, that we become disgusted with it. We realize that there's no real satisfaction. And then there's the Jnana Kanda, which means we search for a higher understanding of life. And we start to hear about, the soul beyond the body. And so we start to focus on that more than the material life. And then gradually we come to the point of the Upasana Kanda. So Upasana Kanda is the Upanishads. In the Upanishads are like, Prabhupada said, they're like headlines. They're headlines of the Vedas. In other words, I don't think there's so many newspapers left nowadays, but when you read in a newspaper, there's a small writing and there's the big writing. The first page has got the big headlines with the most catching news. Then as you read through, there's different sub-headlines which catch your eye. So when people are, going through the Vedas, then the Upanishads are the first step, first opportunity to, go beyond Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, because Upasana Kanda means worship. So when we worship, then we have to worship somebody. So it starts to go beyond just knowledge and worship of our own mental concoctions, but worship of something outside ourselves. And so this is the purpose of the Vedas, is to bring us to that point where at some point we get caught on the Upasana Kanda, and then from Upasana Kanda we can rise in real spiritual knowledge about worship of maybe the demigods or different living entities, and eventually Bhagavad Gita will bring us to, which is another Upanishad, to the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like that. And all the Vedas are actually designed like that. Even the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you analyze Srimad Bhagavatam, right at the, first of all, we have the second chapter, which gives an overview. And then it starts to talk about, the creation. And it talks about creation for a long time. It talks about the material world for a long time. And even in the fifth canto, it's talking about, Rishabhadev, sorry, not Rishabhadev, but Priyavrata, it said how he, with his chariot, he formed 7 islands on the Bhumandal. And so when Parikshit Maharaj heard about that, he asked a question about the boom. What is the structure of this universe? And so then the fifth canto talks about the structure of the universe. And it said by understanding the structure of the universe, one can eventually come to the point of seeing how it's connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then that becomes not just a knowledge or knowledge in one of the modes, it becomes transcendental knowledge. So we can see how gradually we have to come to the point of understanding Krishna. Most people, I remember, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, I was walking home from, it was before I joined the movement, and I was walking home with a friend, and I think I did say this last time, actually, but anyway, he said, we're in the body of a big person. I said, what he's talking about, And actually, he was right. This is actually how this universe is, that we're in, Mahavishnu. You couldn't understand from even the science that we learned at school that, there's some connection with the greater universe and the internal workings of the individual body. So that's a platform that people are on. They're on the material platform, and they have to gradually understand the Supreme Lord in that way. I mean, we might say that there's Christian religion, there's Muslim religion, which don't necessarily are so connected with the Vedas. But if we analyze that, those religions are more or less, there's no deep understanding, no deep knowledge. I don't know about Muslim religion, but I know before I became a devotee, I took some interest in Christianity, and there was no actual philosophy hardly. And therefore, it's all based on, faith and morality and some sentiment. And Jesus Christ actually said that. He says, I can tell you more, but you're not ready for it. So we're talking about, trying to understand the philosophy of life. And when we start to understand philosophically, then our faith becomes very, very strong. Siddhanta bolaya chichena karya alas, iya hoite Krishna lagi suridamanas. This is a verse by Krishnadas Kaviraj in the Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. And this particular point was talking about the connection between Mahavishnu and Krishna. And there was an argument that, Krishna is the origin, or Mahavishnu is the origin of Krishna. And so there was a big philosophical debate went on there. And then at the end of it, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, this is not a waste of time. For a devotee, you might think, why are we going through all this? We're convinced that Krishna is the source of Vishnu. Says, because if we actually, discuss these things, it strengthens the mind. One's faith becomes deep. And then gradually, one becomes attached, not just to the philosophy, but attached to Krishna. So this is the idea behind, literatures in this material world, the Vedas. They're bringing one from one platform to another. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that, real religion is raising oneself from one platform to the next platform, whatever that may be. He said, this is religion. It may be for some a lot lower than others, but still, this is what the Vedas do, right from the lowest position in this material world. Yeah, it talks a little bit about the nature of the world we live in at the present. In this verse I quoted from the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Prayanalpiya Sahasabhya. It says, Manda, people are lazy in spiritual life. We're actually covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. Modes of passion and ignorance. Ignorance means that maybe not even that we're so very good at enjoying the body. We're completely, or not completely, but almost inert. Mode of passion means that we're very active, but it's all for the satisfaction of the body. And so we're actually advised to come to the mode of goodness, where we can actually understand the higher principles of life. And so we'll find that when Vyasadeva split the Vedas, he realized that it wouldn't be possible for people in general to understand them as they were, one Veda. He split them into four, and then there was sub-Vedas. And out of all those Vedas, came the Vedanta Sutra, conclusion of the Vedas. And then from Vedanta Sutra is the commentary, natural commentary on the Vedas. And so we can understand from this that the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the highest literature in the Vedas. That is in the Smriti, because Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that means Smriti, because it's a natural commentary. Natural commentary means that it's natural that the person who's wrote the Vedas actually understands the meaning. And so therefore it's called natural commentary. Anybody else who tries to comment, they may not actually understand the purpose properly of the original author. And then we come to, so Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Amala Purana, the purest of the Puranas. You know, the Puranas in the mode of ignorance, Puranas in the mode of passion, and Puranas in the mode of goodness. But Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, the mode of goodness, the Puranas in the mode of goodness are superior to the ones in the mode of passion and ignorance. And of the Puranas in the mode of goodness, Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the supermost. It's considered to be the purest Purana, the highest Purana. And then we have Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is Shruti, because it's spoken directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, both logically and philosophically, is superior to all other Shruti scriptures. And so these two books are considered to be the cream of the Vedic literatures. And Lord Chaitanya actually said, actually Krishna Kaviraj Goswami said, what did he say? He Kali Kale Ara Nahir Konadam Vaishnav Vaishnav Shastre He Kahimam. So I'll just read that from the verse book. He says that in the age of Kali, there are no actual real religious principles. There are no religious literatures. There's only the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnav Shastras. And so we're very fortunate that, you know, we're following or reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and he's getting his commentary from the Acharyas like Jiva Goswami and, you know, Sridhar Swami, Jiva Goswami. They're Vaishnav Shastra. They're the Vaishnavas who are writing the Vaishnav Shastras. In fact, Lord Chaitanya said that one of the things that he asked the Goswamis to do is to write books. He said, analyze all the scriptures and come up with the essence. So this is what they did. This is why Chaitanya Charitamrita quotes this verse. So the hard work's been done. So we'll come back to the verse in the first canto as well, first chapter of the first canto again. So we're talking about laziness and the reason why the Vedas are actually made that way. Even if we actually follow the Vedas, it says Sumanda Matayo. Sumanda Matayo means that misguided. So, you know, many people, they try to understand something of spiritual life, and they actually eventually become so disgusted that they give up spiritual life, or they find it hard to actually follow a person, you know, who's actually giving real spiritual knowledge. So, what was I going to say, man? If I find it hard to follow a person who's giving the absolute truth, and this is actually backed up in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita explains that Vitaraga Bhayakroda Manmayaman Apashrita Bhava Janma Tapasa Bhutamad Bhavam Agataha. It says, being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, many persons actually achieve success in spiritual life. And one of these three things is anger. Is that we've just been talking about, you know, sumanda mataya, or people become they're misguided, and therefore they become angry. And this is one of the reasons people find it difficult to take up spiritual life. The other two are attachment and fear. People are too attached to the material world, and some people, you know, spiritual life is fearful for them. They find it hard when they hear about, you know, we have a personality after this particular lifetime. Some people become very disturbed. I remember when I was doing books, many times that if people take an interest, he started explaining the philosophy of the soul, how we're not the body, we're the soul. And, you know, this when the body actually dies, the soul carries on. And people say, what happens to the soul then? You say, oh, you say, if you, according to your karma, you get another body. And many people say, oh, no, not another one. They're already, you know, they're already understanding that this lifetime is actually suffering. And so they're fearful. They carry the same impression that life after this one is going to be the same. And then Manda Bhagya. Bhagya means unlucky. Bhagya means good fortune. And Manda means bad fortune. So yeah, unlucky means that we've got a bad deal in this world. You know, we're unlucky to be born in a situation where it's extremely difficult to take up spiritual life. And we see that people may take to it, but they don't stick to it. And so these two books, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, are actually the torchlight for the people of this age. When Lord Krishna left this world, he left Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And if we follow Prabhupada said, actually, I only know Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Actually, he didn't say that. He said, I only know Bhagavad Gita. And he said, because I understand Bhagavad Gita, I can defeat anybody. So this is a very, you know, elevated literature. The ABC, we call it the ABC of spiritual life, but it's far above any other literature in this material world. Any other religion, it actually doesn't come close. Upadrutaha, it says in this verse from the first canto of Bhagavatam. That means that everybody's disturbed. So, you know, we're disturbed mentally and physically. And this is due to, you know, a sinful life means that both the body suffers and the mind suffers. The mind becomes less, the body becomes less healthy, and the mind becomes more uncontrollable. So, and then actually, I was listening to a tape by Prabhupada recently, and he was talking about how this age of Kali started. And then one of his disciples said, yeah, this, what did he say? This materialistic civilization has been here for a long time, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, oh, no, it doesn't. He says, only in the last 200 years. And the devotee was surprised. And then Prabhupada started to explain, he said, this, up to 200 years ago, it was an agrarian agrarian way of life. People generally lived off the land. He said it's only when the Industrial Revolution came that things started to really speed up. And, you know, Kali Yuga became very, very much, what can you say, accelerated. And there's two things that they're very prominent here. Take, for instance, an agrarian civilization or way of life is centered around the two things, Krishigo Raksha Vaniyam. So these two things are farming and cow protection. And so the two deities of farming and cow protection are the bull and the cow. So take, for instance, a cow. I was reading one Bhakti Girl magazine from 1990s, I think it was, by one Mataji Krishna Devi, I think it was called Krishna Devi, and on the Pennsylvania farm. And she was quoting Bhishma Dev and relating to cow protection. And when he was laid on the bed of arrows, he was giving so much information about all different aspects of the Vedas. And at one point, he said that there's three things that we shouldn't sell. So one thing is poison. I mean, that's a pretty obvious one. A poison, unless it's, you know, in the right hand. I mean, poison can be actually a cure if it's in the right hands, but usually there's not many people who know how to use it. So poison shouldn't be sold. What's the next one? Hair. I couldn't understand how anybody wants to sell hair, you know what I mean? But then it talks about wool. Wool is the hair of a cow, of a sheep. And then the last one was milk. And he said that, you know, before people used to milk their own cow, take their own milk, make it into yogurt, and then make it into cheese, and what was surplus, sell it. So they did used to sell it. He says, but, you know, when the age of Kali started to take hold, people's minds became more disturbed and their greed became increased. So they started to sell it for profit. And when they start to sell milk for profit, then there's competition. And so then in order to actually keep the prices down, you have to keep your overheads down. And so we all know that when the cow gets to a certain age, it actually stops giving milk. And so, you know, it can be a big overhead to keep a cow which is not doing anything. And so they started slaughtering the cow. And this is when really things really started to become disturbed. And then, you know, the bull, for instance, the bull used to plough the field. So we've talked about Krishigo Rakshivaniam. I hope we're on the. I hope everybody's we're still connected. We're talking about how things become degraded, and so the Vedas needed to gradually, you know, became more and more diverse to actually accommodate so many different types of people. And so I'm just explaining how, you know, the Kali affected people. For instance, the bull ordinarily would plough the field, and you would get, you know, your crops at the end of the year or in September in England. And then people would be, you know, would have grains to stock all the winter until the next harvest. And but then when greed comes in, you know, the bull is a very slow animal and you can only plough so much each day. So you're limited to what you can actually make a profit on. And so that's when they started introducing the Shire horse. And so the Shire horse is much, much faster. And so they, you know, they can actually make more, they can actually do more farming, make more money. So then what do you do with a bull? Same as you did with the cow. So everything started to degrade from that point on. So yeah, Upadrutaha, always disturbed. Yes, so the essence was the essence of the Vedas is not to necessarily to become a big scholar. The essence of the Vedas is to actually bring people to the point of Krishna consciousness. And I think I mentioned this last week that, you know, Krishna's in the heart. And no matter what situation somebody's in, if they're actually serious about making progress, then Krishna will reveal information required to go forward. So the essence is to actually bring people to the point of devotional service. And an example of this is a story many of us have heard many times. You know, the Brahman and the cobbler, how, you know, the Brahman, even though he was so learned, somehow or other he'd learned the Vedas, but he had no faith, basically. So it's not a matter of learning, it's a matter of the attitude. Whereas the cobbler, You know, he didn't hardly know anything. He was illiterate almost. But somehow or other, he got faith. And when Narada Muni came back to see them both, they both asked him what the Supreme Lord was doing. The Brahmin, you know, he said he was throwing an elephant through an eye of a needle. And the Brahmin, you know, he couldn't understand that. But the cobbler, simple-hearted, he got the faith to understand that, you know, Krishna can do anything. He can make inside, outside, black, white. He's actually the last word in the truth. So so development of knowledge is one thing, but you know, philosophy can't prove that there's a supreme personality of Godhead at the end of the day. We have to gradually develop faith through that knowledge. You know, Krishna's achintya. So achintya means that he cannot be understood. He's inconceivable. So we may philosophize, but the philosophy is there to actually convince ourselves that, you know, this actually is logical, it makes sense. And therefore we get a foothold in devotional service. And then we sort of practice, you know, bhakti or Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. But then, you know, when we come to the point of Nishta, then things start to change. We've got some faith, but at Nishta, it means that, you know, we're actually fixed in devotional service. And so then we start to get a taste. When you actually focus on something, you get a taste for it. So then ruchi starts to develop, and then which means taste, and a shakti, which means attachment, and then eventually bhava, which means you know, experiencing the mellows of devotional service. Gradually, this is increasing. So first is this philosophy. There's two things to the Bhagavatam and Vedic literatures. One is philosophy and one is rasa, one is taste. So until we get that rasa, it's very difficult, you know, to make vast progress in devotional service. You know, Bhagavad Gita tells us about this. Vishaya vinivartante, niharashidem, raso varjim rasopyasya, param drishpa nivarste. So we have to get that higher taste. And this is what comes from, initially from hearing Vedic literatures and performing devotional service. And then that devotional service takes a different turn. It's no longer, you know, so philosophical. It's more actually that we've got a realization. We're experiencing the fruit of devotional service, and that's enough to keep us going. And that gradually multiplies and becomes manifesting pure love of God eventually. So when we get to that point, we're actually, Prabhupada said, we're on the safe side. So everything is dependent on, you know, the taste we get. Prabhupada was asked by one devotee, actually he wasn't asked, he was actually explaining to a few of his disciples about, he mentioned that, you know, how do we know Krishna exists? How do we know this philosophy is real? And they gave answers, but they couldn't actually give the answer that Prabhupada wanted. He says, yeah, all these things are true. He says, but the real thing is that we actually feel Krishna. We reciprocate with Krishna. You know, we can see Krishna working in our lives and we get that kind of reciprocation. And then it's actually beyond just philosophy. It's actually fact. Yeah, so we in the second chapter of Bhagavatam, first canto, it gives the whole process of devotional service in a nutshell. It talks about you know, Shushrusho Shraddhadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi. That first comes service, then engage somebody in service, then a taste, Srinvatam Svakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. And then that taste is actually will take away any attraction to this material world when we've got a taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada writes in the report, it will even take away the actual taste for sex life. That will disappear. So this is the process of hearing. And it goes on, Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam, we're always hearing regularly. And then one becomes almost freed from, he said, one almost becomes fixed in devotional service. This is called Nishta. And then Tadara Jastamabhava, then these lower modes, Rajas and Tamas, and this is epitomized by, hankering for something, or thinking that we're missing something, or desiring something. These things will disappear from the heart and will become peaceful. So this is when we're starting to get the taste. This is all done by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then eventually, Evam Prasanna Manaso. And then our natural taste for devotional service starts to manifest. Evam Prasanna. Pra means very much so. Manaso. The mind becomes enlivened by devotional service. Evam Prasanna Manaso. Bhagavat Bhakti Yogatana. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. Mukta Sangasya Jayate. We become liberated from the material concept of life. And it's at that point that then, our attraction to this world becomes cut. It's gradually becoming cut over, over this period. But then Vidyate, it says, Hridaya Grantis. They're not in the heart is cut. And the chain of fruitive reactions are terminated. And we actually see our master and ourselves. We see that we're actually capable of, we can engage in devotional service. We don't have to engage in the material energy anymore. So this is why Vyasadeva went to so much trouble. And after writing all the Vedas, he still felt dissatisfied. And of course, his spiritual master Narada Muni gave him a clue. And then he could understand that he'd actually written all the Vedas. He'd even mentioned Krishna, but he hadn't spoken enough about Krishna. And so then he started to write Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the well, he started to expand on Srimad Bhagavatam actually, and included more about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that people could get a taste. Ramananda Roy, when he was asked by Lord Chaitanya, tell me something important about devotional service, about the process of Bhakti Yoga. And he said that you should, quote from Shastra to support it. And Ramananda Roy went through many things. Varnashram system, surrendering everything to Krishna, at the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, all that we do we should offer to Krishna, develop knowledge of Brahman. And it wasn't until Ramananda Roy mentioned Jnane Priyasam, that we should hear in the association of devotees, Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnane Priyasam Udapashyanam Eva. It wasn't until he got to that point, then Lord Chaitanya was actually starting to become a little bit more satisfied with what he was saying. So all process of devotional service, all process of religious or spiritual, activity, they really start to develop when we actually start to hear properly these two books, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And then, of course, Lord Chaitanya kept encouraging Ramananda Roy to explain more and more. And so he gradually started explaining more about rasa, about the relationship in servitude, the relationship in dasya ras, a relationship in neutral Dasharas, then Vatsalya Ras, and then Madhurya Ras, and then eventually it came up to the point of the gopis' unmotivated love for Krishna, and eventually Srimati Radharani. So that's the end of knowledge. The end of knowledge is Bhakti Yoga. The taste for serving Krishna, the taste for reciprocating with Krishna. So until we start experiencing that, there'll always be some dissatisfaction in the heart. And that taste can only be experienced by following the words of Bhagavatam. What's the words of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita actually saying? First of all, give up the material concept of life and engage. First thing it says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sarvapumsham paradharmo yato bhaksya adokshaje ahoitaki apratyata yayatma suprasidati. It says yayatma suprasidati, that we can become enlivened when we perform unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service. When a desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, just a desire to give pleasure to Krishna and his devotees starts to become increased, then we actually get a taste in devotional service. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayodhita. Knowledge develops, jnanatyasya vairagyam. Knowledge develops and then vairagya develops. And these are two, in the beginning, these are two very important aspects of spiritual life. When we actually understand something proper, we can renounce it without any difficulty. But until we get a taste of bhakti, these two things won't stand. But without these two things, it's very difficult to understand bhakti properly. I'll give an example. In Nectar of Devotion, in one part of it, I think it's the second chapter, it's talking about, no, it's the first chapter actually, it's talking about the sadhana bhakti. And it says, Prabhupada says, this is not a mechanical process. So I couldn't understand that, because to me, when I was practicing devotional service at the beginning, I thought it's mechanical. I haven't got a real big taste. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in order to make advancement. So I couldn't understand it. And then after some time, I started to realize that, there's one group of devotees, so-called devotees, called Prakriti Sahajas. So Prakriti Sahajas, they act on the platform of a purified soul. In other words, they're acting in what should be our constitutional position prematurely. And I could understand, this is actually mechanical. When we try to actually engage in devotional service on that platform of our natural constitutional position without enough purification, then that's mechanical. So, devotional, it says but then Prabhupada said it's like a baby. A baby has a natural aptitude to walk. But that aptitude is brought out by a proper process. And when that process is followed, the baby actually starts to be able to, practice and develop that. So we have a natural innate ability to serve Krishna within the heart, just like the baby has a natural aptitude to walk. Nitya Krishna Siddha Krishna Prema Sajika Banoid. That love is in the heart. And so, a devotee, we should be focusing on that more than anything. That simultaneously we're actually developing knowledge and vairagya. We're also trying to develop a loving relationship with Krishna. So everything we do should be actually, done with what they say in Ireland, a heart and a half. We shouldn't just mechanically do it, but we should do it with feeling. We should do it with, without any grudge, giving a little bit extra. And this is actually very very effective if we can do that. Prabhupada actually said in that part of Nectar of Devotion that when we go to the temple, we shouldn't just go to the temple, but we should do something, you know, outside the box. Why not take some flowers for the deity? Why not do something a little extra like that? Yeah, e kali kali are nahi komadam, Vaishnav shasa nahi, Vaishnav shasa e kahimam. Okay, so we can stop there. It's almost in England. Actually, I'm not in England. I'm in Georgia. It's 8 o'clock here almost.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. It's very interesting how you took the text and handled it in a very say more so as bhakti, devotion to Guru and Krishna than just like maybe historical aspects. So I find that to be very interesting. Devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you would like to share, please you may unmute and speak. All right, I have a question. It is said that Vyasadeva, Srila Vyasadeva,
Yeah.
he is the compiler of the Vedic literatures. And my understanding is that there is a difference between a compiler and an author. So who wrote all these, like the Bhagavatam, for example, the Bhagavatam we're reading, who wrote it for Srila Vyasadeva to compile it together?
Who wrote the Bhagavatam?
Yes. Because it is said that Srila Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedic literatures. And I'm saying, if my understanding is correct, this is important. If my understanding of the word compiler is right, that the compiler is not necessarily the author. The compiler just brings the different writings together and then stack them or separate them the way he wants to separate them. So we're reading from the purport that Srila Vyasadeva compiled these together to make it what he will. It's like a future tense for the less intelligent people. So he is bringing all these books and bringing them into different categories for different classes of men. But excuse me, I just wanted to know, in that case, who should be credited to as the author of the Bhagavatam?
Yes, good question. Thank you. Very thoughtful. Yeah, Vyasadeva compiled them. They were already there. The Vedas. And he compiled the Vedanta Sutra, actually. He compiled this, and eventually the Vedanta Sutra, which is a conclusion on the Vedas. And but then, you know, Shankaracharya also commented on the Vedanta Sutra, and he wrote the Sharirak Bhasya, commentary, which was an impersonal understanding. And so then Baladev Vidyabhushan, he eventually wrote the Govinda Bhashya, or the the Vaishnava commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Because at that time, unless there was actually a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, nobody would take your argument seriously. So although the Vaishnavas were arguing personalist philosophy, they were told, you don't even have a commentary. Shankaracharya has one. And so I suppose, in that respect, in modern times, Baladev Vidyabhushan wrote the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So that's the Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, different sampradayas, they'll have their different commentaries also. You see, also Vyasadeva, when he wrote, he says he wrote the Vedas, compiled or wrote them. I don't know what the difference is really. I mean, but then he saw that they were actually unacceptable to the general mass of people. So he what they call delegated to different parts of the four Vedas to different authors. Jaimini, Samaveda, Paila, Rig Veda, Yajnavalkya, I think it was another one. So they also, went into more detail and expanded on them so that, it would give people a better opportunity to understand them. And then they were expanded on. Then, the ancillaries to the Vedas were written, like Mahabharata and Ramayana. And threaded into that was in the Mahabharata was the Bhagavad Gita, or one of the Upanishads. And so devotion is actually threaded in those literatures, but they were suitable for that class of people who wouldn't ordinarily necessarily read the Bhagavatam straight away, what to speak of the Vedanta Sutra. So as far as I know, Vyasadeva did compile the Vedic literatures, and I'm assuming that means he put them into writing. And then, it was actually expanded upon by successive devotees. And that also, it may be not, like Paila, who wrote the Samaveda, he wouldn't be doing it all on his own either. His associates who would actually help him as well would be different. That's natural.
Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. But I also wanted to know whether, because we understand that sometimes different kalpas, different ages, histories are mixed in the scriptures. So sometimes one may not be very sure whether this particular name refers to this particular kalpa or this kalpa, that kalpa. But I wanted to know, this particular Vyasa, son of Satyavati, is he Vishnu Tattva or Jiva Tattva? Because in the purport, Prabhupada was saying, sorry, not in the purport, the text itself, it is said that the Supreme Lord will appear himself. So that makes me think that he is a Vishnu Tattva. But some readings have made also tell that he possibly may be a Jiva Tattva. That's why I want to find out.
He is a Shakti-Avesh avatar. There's two Shakti-avatar types of Shakti-avatar avatars, the Jiva and Tadekatma. Tadekatma means it's Vishnu Tattva, but they're particularly empowered by Krishna to do a certain activity. Because Krishna's empowering everybody ultimately. Dipache evi dasantaram apupecha dipayate evavita hetu samanadana. Yastari evi ita Vishnu tayavi bharti govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. You know, Krishna's the original candle. So, you know, everybody's empowered by Krishna. But, you know, for us to understand, we have to categorize things. And so we categorize Shakti Avatar and this, that, so that we can start to get some, you know, understand things. And when there's two kinds, like the Tadekatman, which is Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. I don't know which one it is actually. I'm not so sure. But he's a Shakti Avatar. And I think, you know, like, they're still called the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if they're a Jiva Tattva, because they're empowered as much as the Supreme Lord to do a certain thing. They've got the full Shakti of the Supreme Lord, so they're called, like Prithu Maharaj was called Supreme Lord, like that. So the more you go into, when you're reading Chaitanya Chaitamrita, it talks about, I'm reading that at the moment, it talks about, you know, Nityananda Tattva, how he's Shankarshan, and how from Shankarshan comes the three Vishnus, and then there's Ananta Dev, and, you know, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and in one part it'll say that Aniruddha is the superintendent deity of false ego. Then they'll read later it says Shankarshan's the superintendent deity of false ego. You think, wait a minute, what's going on? And, you know, Prabhupada, not on this particular instance, but Prabhupada talks about, you know, when two of his sannyasis were arguing about the Ram in the Hare Krishna mantra, did it mean Lord Ramachandra or Baladev? And Prabhupada says it's both. So, you know, it's for our ease of understanding that things are categorized, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's Krishna.
Well, thank you, Maharaj. But these topics are kind of complex. Of course, it's not difficult to understand Krishna in any way, but these expansions and incarnations are quite complicated. Krishna Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances. Please, my question is on the issue of avatar incarnations of Krishna. My question is, if a devotee does not know all these incarnations, will he or she not go back to Godhead?
If a devotee worships somebody who he doesn't know as an incarnation?
No. Yes, if a devotee does not know all these different incarnations of Krishna, is it a disqualification of going back to Godhead?
It'll help him, but he won't go back to Godhead. As far as there's a pastime of Ajamil. You know, he called out the name of Narayan. And he wasn't thinking about Narayan, he was thinking about his son. But because he called out the name, he got the benefit, and the Vishnu Dutas came and saved him. And then he got an opportunity to start rendering devotional service in knowledge. So it's like that, you know, somebody unconsciously calls out the name of God. You know, they'll get an opportunity to actually understand Krishna and surrender to him. That's my understanding. And it says anybody who calls out the name of the God at the end of life, then they'll go back to Godhead. And so it seems to be a little bit contradictory. But the thing is, you know, not many people are going to call out the name of God at the end of life unless they practice devotional service. You know what I mean? It's like Prabhupada gives the example of there was one coyote or hyena, and he fell in some blue paint. And when he came out of the paint, all the animals think, "Wow, this must be a special deity, some from another planet or something. We still worship it." And so they were treating him like the Supreme Lord almost, and they put him on a throne and they were worshiping him. And but then a tiger came, and then he revealed his real. He didn't start shouting the names of God or anything. He just like screaming for his life. So it's like that we'll actually remember what we've practiced throughout the life we want. And if we're worshipping, coming back to the point, if we're worshipping Vishnu and we don't know he's the Supreme Lord, then Krishna will accept that worship and they will benefit that person. But, as we surrender unto Krishna, he rewards us accordingly. So it's not that if we're on one level, we'll get something of a higher level. Obviously, we can get Krishna's mercy, but this is like, a special benediction which very few people get. What they call it, something degree. What they call that degree? Honorary degree. Usually, we have to go through a process. We're not going through this process all through this lifetime, going through so much detail and so much surrender and so much service. And, so somebody can, unless they've done that previously, of course, just so that we.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishna Prabhu, for your question. Tribhuvanath Prabhu, you have a question, please. You may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, thank you for the class. It's so overwhelming hearing from you, Maharaj. Maharaj, if we look at the history of Mahabharata, Bhishma Dev, he could not give up the side of the Pandava, the side of the Kauravas, with the intention that he was trying to protect the kingdom. He was trying to say that the kingdom he fall at the right path, or he goes to the right, he stands as it was, maintaining the lineage of the king, the king order. So we see also from that extension, many things was being done by him. Although we see Bhishma Dev as one of the Mahajan. Okay, the question I want to ask now is Vyasa Dev, as you have explained, which is also part of the Sanskrit injunction, he compiled, and we know that those who compile books or literatures, they are more very let me use this word. They are more even more or they are more even experts. Will I use the word expert? They know more better than the author, because they have to put together the pros and cons of the books. So Vyasa, he's the compiler of the Vedas. Look at the first situation, which the institution we belong, is against illicit sex. So we see Vyasa Dev had illicit sex just to protect or to preserve the dynasty of the Kuru. So what will you say to that, Maharaj?
Vyasa Dev did what? I didn't get
it. Has Vyasa Dev just to protect the dynasty of the Kuru. So how do we balance that?
It protected the dynasty of the Kurus.
Yes.
Vyasa Dev.
Yes. How do we balance that? He was called upon to come and have children from different ladies, and these ladies were not having any connection with him. So how do we, see it from a broader perspective on this, Maharaj?
I don't know whether he protected the Kuru dynasty or not. I've not heard that before.
Okay.
If you tell me where you got it from,
Pardon?
I say I've not heard that Vyasadeva specifically protected the Kurus.
Maharaj, get the question straight again, Maharaj. Maharaj, the question is, Vyasadeva was called upon to come and do certain acts, which actually is against the norms of human society. What is that? To come and have, sex just for procreation, of maintaining a dynasty. And he did. But certainly, we know these things are actually against the norms of society. And he also is the one who has provided, who has given to society injunction that we create, our peace and harmony. But at the same time, it's like somebody going against what he have established. So how do we keep that in mind in a state of it's a balanced norms?
Well, Vyasadeva.
Yes.
I mean, he's the one. Was it Vyasadeva? Yeah, Vyasadeva. He conceived. What was it?
Dhritarashtra and Pandu.
Yeah, that's right. So, when Krishna comes to this world, he comes with his entourage. There's, devotees coming from the spiritual world. There's demigods taking birth. There's some, sadhana bhaktas on this earth taking part in his pastimes. So everybody's taking a part. They're coming to perform a particular, play or activity so that, society can learn from this. An activity which will first attract people to hear about it, like Mahabharata, and then, instill in people some devotional service. It's there to actually turn society away from going to hell, to bring them back on the course. And so devotees will take different posts to fulfill Krishna's desire, like Bhishma. He didn't try to stop Dushasan from stripping, Draupadi naked in the assembly of Kuru. It's like unthinkable that anybody could even do that, even by modern standards. People wouldn't be able to swallow that. So this was 5,000 years ago when the models were very much higher. But he did that because he knew it's part of Krishna's plan. So we have to understand that, if we try to work out why this devotee did this and he's supposed to be on this platform, and then we'll become really confused. If we always remember that the devotees are taking a part. So because it's that's what Krishna wants. And that's what Arjuna did. He had to take a part which he didn't want to do because Krishna wanted it. And so that's what the devotee does. He'll do something because Krishna wants him to do it, even though he wouldn't ordinarily do it. And if Krishna doesn't want him to do something, he won't do it, even though he would want to do it. So in other words, he's completely surrendered to what Krishna wants him to do because he has full faith in Krishna. Bhaktaram Yogitapasam Sarva is Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, is a well-wishing friend of every living entity in creation. So a devotee goes along with that. And also, he's developed so much affection and trust in Krishna as well. It may not be easy for them to do it sometimes. Does that answer your question?
Maharaj, thank you. I will say from your angle, you give a nice point. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Well, if I may say a word about Tribhuvannath Prabhu's question to you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
I think it will be improper to suggest that Srila Vyasadeva engaged in illicit sex, because
I didn't understand that's what the question was, actually. I couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the main question.
Oh.
And I'm thinking that it would be very inappropriate to assume that Srila Vyasadeva engaged in illicit sex, because the word illicit means going against laws, rules, norms, and traditions and cultures. So during that age, it was permissible for someone to engage in such act. And he, Srila Vyasadeva, did not force himself into doing that. He was requested. So I think there is a difference. But Shrimavara has his hand up. Maybe we'll go to him. Shrimavara, Prabhu, you may unmute.
Yes, that's true. I didn't realize what was being asked. I didn't think illicit sex were mentioned, but yeah, it's not illicit for, you know, in this age it's illicit. There's three things which you can't do in this age: take sannyas, a brother can have sex with, you know, his brother's wife.
Brother's wife.
Yeah. So these things were allowed then because they weren't so contaminated. It was necessary in order to continue the dynasty. And I'm sorry I didn't understand your question properly.
It's okay. Thank you.
Waffling away on something else.
Shrimavara, Prabhu, you may go ahead, please.
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. I mean, Maharaj just said exactly what I wanted to say. That in the bygone age, exactly what I wanted to contribute. That it was customary at that time to raise children from a brother's wife. That was customary. Yeah. It was not against the law at that time. So Maharaj just said that now. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Anyone else with something to share? Please. Well, Maharaj, we can't thank you enough for blessing us with your association and wisdom. You're speaking from UK, right? All right.
No, I'm in Georgia. It's
Georgia. Okay.
It's in
close to Russia.
Yeah, Middle East.
Okay. Okay. So, if I may ask, is it late your time? Late in the evening?
It's 26 minutes past 8.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You're in Ghana?
No, yeah, I'm in the US. So, yes, ma'am. It's 11:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Okay.
But the devotees are scattered all around the world. We have devotees from different continents. So, well, Maharaj, we thank you. If there is no more question, we may have to bring this class to a close and let Maharaj go. It's kind of late. But there is one interesting thing I read, Maharaj, when we're talking about Shakti Avesh. It's like sometimes, okay, we're talking Shakti Avesh and even Lila avatars. And even sometimes these Lila avatars may also be Jiva Tattvas, but they are not considered Shakti Avesh. They are considered Jiva Tattvas. They are considered Lila avatars instead of Shakti Avesh. Because the 25 principal expansions, we discussed this, I think, sometime last week on this, because we're following chronologically the texts, and we came upon some of those incarnations that are like Jiva Tattvas, but they are also in the category of Leela avatars. For example, Dhruva Maharaj is considered as one of the Leela avatars of Krishna in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 20, from like 240 downwards. So it's very interesting. These incarnations are kind of complicated. I've been trying to have a little bit of a better understanding, but it's not so easy. So Maharaj, I'm praying, please bless me so I can have a clearer understanding on these incarnations.
Bless me as well.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. So, dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, since nobody has a question or comment, and then we all lovingly chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindhuvyacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha.
His Holiness Dayananda Swami Maharaj ki
Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Jai.